Today we're going to be writing trig equations given the graph, including horizontal and vertical shifts. So this is a little bit more complicated than what we were doing last week. I have given you how we're going to find our a, b, h, and k for all of these equations. So for the graphs, usually I'm going to be asking you for both sine and cosine. So you should be able to write two equations, one with sine, one in cosine for each graph. So let's start off by looking for our a, or our amplitude. So to find a, we're going to do our maximum minus our minimum divided by 2. So in this problem, our maximum value is right here at 1, minus our minimum down here is at -7. So when we do 1 minus -7 divided by 2, minus a negative turns into plus. So it's really 1 plus 7, which gives us 8/2, which gives us an a of 4. So we know our a value is going to be 4. To find our b value, we're going to need to do 2 pi divided by period. So to find our period, what I'm going to do is find the length between the top of this hill and the top of this hill, because we know that's going to be one whole period. So to do this, I'm going to first count the number of spaces. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 spaces. And on this chart, or on this graph right here, we know that each space is pi over 6. So this is actually 10 times pi over 6. So 10 pi over 6 we can simplify to be 5 pi over 4, or over 3, excuse me, by dividing them both by 2. And then this is our period, which we're now going to take and put underneath 2 pi. So we're going to find b is 2 pi divided by our period, which is 5 pi over 3. Now we know when we divide a fraction, it's the same thing as multiplying by its reciprocal. So I'm going to flip the 5 pi over 3. The pi's cancel out, and this just gives you a b value of 2 times 3 is 6. There's still a 5 at the bottom. This is your b value. Okay. The next thing that we're going to find, so we do need to find h and k. K is a lot easier to find than h. So let's start off by finding k. K is going to be our maximum minus the amplitude. So our maximum, again, is right here at the top, which is 1, minus our amplitude, which we found out was 4. So we know that our k is -3. And just to make sure, I'm going to put this on my graph. Here is -3. This should be the middle of your graph. So this should be the center of the waves, hill and valley, hill and valley. If this is not the middle of your graph, then you know you did something wrong with your amplitude. Okay, so now that I have these 3 values, all I need to do left is find my h. So you're going to have 2 different h values, one for sine and one for cosine. So here is my sine, because I know sine has to start at 0, and this is going up and then down, so this is going to be a positive sign. And for cosine, I want cosine to start at the top, so I'm going to use this point right here for my cosine. Okay, so for my sine, what I want is to have a horizontal shift that has gone left. So from here to here, I've gone left a value of pi. So let's use this to write our equation. So I know f of x is equal to, my amplitude is 4, so 4 goes in front. This is my sine function. B is the value that goes in front of the x. So this is 6/5. That's your b value. And we have x. So now this is the part that when you're moving left pi, you're not subtracting because it's the opposite with your h value. You're actually adding pi. And then at the end I have my k value, which is -3, so -3. Here is my equation using sine. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing using cosine, but now what's going to change is my h value. So here is cosine. Cosine has moved also to the left. Let's count how many spaces. 1, 2, 3, 3.5 spaces. So 3.5 we're going to write as 3.5. And again, each space is pi over 6. So it's really 3.5 pi over 6, which we don't want to have a decimal in the numerator. So what I'm actually going to do is multiply both sides by 2, because 3.5 times 2 gives us 7. And then we can get 7 pi over 12, and that gets rid of our decimal. Okay, so now let's write cosine. So again, our a is 4. Now we have a cosine function. Our b is still 6 over 5. And so inside my parentheses, I'm moving left 7 pi over 12. Left means I'm adding because it's the opposite. And then my k value is still the same, minus 3. So the only thing that changes between these two are your h value. So here are my two equations that if I were to graph this, it would be exactly this graph right here. Okay, let's look at number 2. So again, we're first going to start by finding our a. So you should always be referencing back to this when we're looking for our equation. So a is max minus min over 2. My max value here is 5. Minus my minimum value is negative 1. Minus the negative is plus. So this is the same thing as 6 over 2, which means that my a value is 3, because 6 divided by 2 gives you 3. For my b value, I'm going to have to find my period. So again, here is one period from the top of one hill to the top of another hill. So what is my period? So be careful here, because in this case, it's not going up by pi over 6s anymore. Each space is actually 1/2, because 2 spaces is 1. So when you're counting from here to here, be really careful that 2 spaces actually gives you 1 unit. So in this case, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Your period is 6. Another way to figure this out is it goes from negative 3 to 3. So 3 minus negative 3 gives you a period of 6. Okay, so to find our b value, we're going to do 2 pi divided by our period, which is 6, which simplified gives us pi over 3. So there are our a and our b. Now again, let's find our k. K is the maximum, which is 5, minus your amplitude, which is 3. So we have a k value of 2. So really, using these 3 terms, we can actually start writing our function already. We know it's going to be 3. This one's going to say sine. Pi over 3 is my b value. I'm going to leave this part blank because this is what I'm looking for, the h. And I know this is going to have a plus 2 from my k. And then my second equation is going to be the same thing, except for with cosine. And again, what I'm going to look for next is my h value. So these are the things that are different between the two. I have to find my h value. Okay, so my k, which is 2, here's 2. This should be the middle of my function. Yes, it is. And now we're going to use this to find our sine and our cosine. So sine, you know, starts at the line. So it should start at the line. And if we want it to be positive, I'm going to choose this one. So it goes up first and then down. So here's my sine value. So from here to here, this function has moved to the right. And it's moved 1.5. So I've moved to the right 1.5. Which means inside of the parentheses, if I'm moving right, it's the opposite, so I'm going to be subtracting 1.5. For cosine, I want to start at the top, so let me choose this point right here. And this one has moved to the right as well. And this one has moved 3 units to the right, because right here is 3, so it's moved all the way up to the 3. Which means, again, right means you're subtracting because it's the opposite, so you have x minus 3. And here are your 2 final equations that will give you this graph. Okay, let's do one more. So again, let's start off with our a value, max minus min. My max is 5 minus your minimum is 3 divided by 2. gives us 2 over 2, which gives you an amplitude of 1. Let's find our period. So from one top to the other top of a hill. In this case, it is 1, 2 spaces. So 2 spaces means we're multiplying 2 times pi over 6. Because down here you can tell that each space is pi over 6. This gives us 2 pi over 6, which is the same thing as pi over 3. To find our b value, we do 2 pi divided by pi over 3, which is the same thing as 2 pi multiplied by its reciprocal. The pi's cancel out, so this leaves us with a b value of 6. Now let's find our k. So k is the maximum, which is 5, minus your amplitude, which is 1, which gives us 4. And if we graph this, here's y equals 4. Yes, it's clear to see it's right in the middle of your graph. So again, we can actually start writing our function already. We know this is going to be 1, so I don't even have to write anything there. Sine 6 x, again I'm going to leave that part blank because that's what we're going to be looking for, our h. And then plus 4 is from your k. Cosine is going to look very similar, so 1, again I'm not going to write the 1, but if you have it there, that's fine. 6 is your b value. Again, we're going to be looking for the h, and then the k is at the end, so plus 4. Okay, so now let's find our sine and our cosine. So again, we want sine to start on the line. So let's pick a point where it starts on the line, and it's also going up and then down. So I'm going to use this point right here for my sine. So for this one, your graph has shifted to the left, and it's only shifted to the left 1 space, so it's just 1 pi over 6. So if I move to the left, you're going to be adding pi over 6. For cosine, I'm going to pick the top of a hill. So here, right here, I can pick this one. You could really pick any of these, but I'm going to pick the one that's closest. And then here's cosine, and this one's moved to the left as well. And this one's moved to the left only half of a space. So this is 0.5 of a space. So if you have 0.5 pi over 6, so the same thing we did the last time where you don't want to have a decimal, so we're going to multiply both of these by 2. 0.5 times 2 just gives us pi. 6 times 2 gives you 12. Right, so it's moved to the left pi over 12. Again, to the left means we're adding because it's the opposite. And there's pi over 12. So there are my final equations for this graph.